All right, next up, she is a member of the Go-Go's whose new musical, Head Over Heels, is currently running on Broadway. She's a member of the Bluebonnets. She is a public speaker, and she is currently working on her memoir. Please welcome my friend, Kathy Valentine.
I didn't know it was going to be such a hipster event.
Well, you look good for it.
No, I'm not
you
saying...
You wore leather pants on a Sunday.
I'm not saying I don't fit in. I'm just saying everyone's so hip and cool here. I like it.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Today, even though you and I are good friends, I was doing some research on you and your career, and I noticed that the Go-Go's Beauty and the Beat was the first record by an all-female band that was a #1 record, and it was a #1 record for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. What was those 6 weeks like? Do you remember those 6 weeks?
Yeah, I remember it really well. And you didn't know that until just this recent research?
I mean, I'm sure I knew it, but it wasn't like... I don't think that whenever we're hanging out.
It's a really cool claim to fame because not only were we the first all-female band to have a #1 record, we are still the first all-female band. So
yeah.
we kind of thought since 1981 that maybe, things might have changed a little, but for whatever reason, we still hold that title. But it was super exciting. It was a lot of work. I mean, having just written my memoir, why am I feeding back? Am I doing it wrong?
Okay.
Having just done my memoir, it's all really fresh in my mind, and it was really exciting. I remember the moment that we went #1, and it was a lot of extremes, just a lot of extremes, a lot of hard work. It took 9 months to push the record to #1. We faced tons of resistance. The record company was a small label, so not only were we the first female band to do that, but we were also one of the first indie record labels that got to #1, right. And it really helped, bands like REM and people that followed in our path. So that was exciting, but there was just so much resistance from radio people. I mean, they would all have us come in and interview us and stuff. I think it was more like curiosity and wanting to hang out and look at us and see what we were like. But we did all that work. We would go to the radio stations and shake their hands and do their interviews at 6 in the morning. And all that work finally paid off. But what really paid off for us was MTV.
Right.
Yeah, MTV was starting right when we were, and being put into people's living rooms, I think, and in a very non-slick kind of, we just stood out.
Yeah.
We stood out.
Yeah. I remember seeing the Our Lips Are Sealed video and wanting to ride around in the car with you guys and jump in the fountain.
Yeah, we were so annoyed doing that video. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's just everybody's making these slick videos because it's all new, and Madonna's breaking out with videos. Even though she's not a huge star yet, she's still making really slick videos, and ours always look like home movies, I'm like, God, we can't compete. But yeah, that was annoying that whole day.
What about the fake water skiing and Vacation?
Yeah.
Was that weird?
We were bombed. We were bombed. Yeah. But it was fun because I kept thinking about the Elvis Presley movies, where they have the projected waves behind you. That's how it was done,
Do you want to talk a little bit about Head Over Heels, the musical?
Yes, I'll talk about anything.
Okay, it is a musical that has your music in it, but it's not like the Four Seasons one where it's the story of the Go-Go's. It's a different story, but your music...
Yes, it's not about the band at all. It just features our catalog of music, and it's just something, when you start playing in a band, that's not really something that you aspire to. Until it happens, then you're like, oh, wow, this is amazing. So to have been basically a Broadway composer is just unbelievable. And it's a really interesting and fun story, and it really brings up a lot of themes like just love and all its acceptance, accepting love in all its forms. Right. And it's just fun. It's a really entertaining, fun show.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Let me ask you this about the beginning. You started out here in Austin. You were going to high school, and you left the public high school and went to an alternative school.
Yeah, I went to a hippie commune school in Bastrop, and it was awesome. I wasn't a really good fit for the public school system because I made really good grades, but I didn't like to go at all. And so they thought I was weird because I would never be there, but still made A's. And so they like started creating problems, you know, and saying, you're weird, your mom's weird. So we just kind of dropped out of that scene. And I have a ninth grade education, which I am remedying. I'm getting a college degree probably next year at 60 years old. So it's never too late to get your college education. But I also have to say, like reading, being well-read and well-traveled, I think is a great education. Maybe it's not good for the job market, but as far as being a fully realized human being and literate and educated, I think reading and traveling is it, you know?
Right.
Nothing, although I love college.
Right.
Nothing against college.
So you started playing here in Austin. You were growing up here in Austin, but you joined your first band in the UK?
No, I started when I went to the hippie school, which the premise there was, it was an educational philosophy that if you leave kids alone, they will figure out what interests them and they will excel. And that was their philosophy. And for me, it worked. And I found music. And as soon as I started playing guitar, I knew that that was kind of going to be how I found my place in the world and how I was going to work my way through the world. I just knew it. I knew it like on a really deep level. And I started from then on, pretty much my goal was trying to have a band.
Right.
And, you know, if I could do it then in 1974, you know, without girls' rock camp or any kind of rock camp or any, I mean, this is awesome what people have, the Music Foundation and Black Fret and all these deals that Austin has. That's great. I hope it begets lots of cool bands, you know, but, you know, you don't need anything. All you have to do is just really want it bad. And that's all. I had this very single-minded purpose. But yeah, I did go to England at one in the search. I wanted an all-girl band. This is my thing. I really wanted, because I loved, like, my favorite bands were the Stones and the Faces and the Beatles and just all the classic rock bands. And I just, when I started playing guitar, it took a while to get to that jump, like, oh, I can do what they're doing. You know, like at first it was just like, Wildwood Flower, like folky girl, because that's what I'd seen was girls doing like folky stuff. Nothing against that, all good. But it didn't inspire me to follow in their footsteps. So when I went to England, when I was 14 years old, I turned on Top of the Pops, which is like a popular music show, and Suzi Quatro was on. And I get annoyed because a lot of people think Suzi Quatro, Happy Days, Leather Tuscadero, that's all cool, but she was really the first rock star I'd ever seen. And I turned on that TV, and there she's like in black leather, and jumpsuit, head to toe, shag haircut, platform boots, and just wailing with guys behind her, and I'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it was like I put my little guitar in the woods together with that, and I came back, and that was all I wanted to do was start a band. And I did go back to England. My mom's English. That's why I kept going back and forth from Texas. But and I joined a band that became Girls' School, which was pretty much the biggest hard rock metal band, all-female band out of Europe and England.
Right.
But I was in it only for like a month.
Oh, okay.
But it sounds good on the resume.
When you came back here is when you started the Violators.
Yes.
With Carla Bolson and Jesse Sublett.
Yes.
And that was a punk rock band?
Yeah, because when I was in England, it was like 1977, I was playing with Girls' School, and punk rock was exploding. And I had gone there feeling pretty hip, you know. And then I started walking around and seeing all these punk rockers, and I started feeling like a big square, like off the turnip truck. And so even though it was happening in America, it hadn't filtered to Texas.
Right.
Like Detroit had cool bands, and New York City did, but in Austin we were still like ZZ Top, you know, which is, I love that. That was my music.
Right.
But when I lost that gig in Girls' School, I thought I'm going to come back to Austin and start the first punk band. And so we were the first punk band in Austin. And we started the Raoul's kind of thing where all the bands had a place to play.
Yeah, talk about that scene. Like, what was the scene like here? That was the late 70s, right?
Yeah, it was 77. Yeah.
Okay, so what was the Austin music scene like in 1977?
Well, I felt really lucky to grow up here because there was always a great music scene. I mean, they didn't call it the live music capital of the world, but they could have. It was, for me growing up, there was like the Fabulous Thunderbirds and Stevie Ray Vaughan and Doug Somm and all the rock bands playing at the Rock Club and Rocky Erickson and just like all kinds. It was just like, and it was all a part of it, all a part. Like it wasn't like a scene where, oh, I like this.
Right.
You know, you could like it all, and so the musicians were really supportive. Like when I started a punk band, there was like guys that played with Eric Johnson that started a punk band too.
Right.
Like everybody wanted to be a part of. Not
Yeah.
everybody. I mean. Like Doug Somm didn't start a punk band,
But people were getting wrapped up in the energy. Even Rocky kind of got wrapped up in that.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a good scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Are you guys interested?
yeah.
I can never tell.
I can't either.
You do this all the time.
Yeah, but you can never tell.
I have to say, I've been lucky to work with Frenchie in the studio, and he is. I mean, I've worked with some really great producers, and he's probably one of my top favorites.
Yeah.
So he's really, and one of my favorite stories is he was in my home studio, and he saw this hole in the wall where I had some cables running through, and he was like, ran right to the whole studio. And it wasn't like a extravagant, but it was a nice studio. And he, out of the whole thing, he saw the hole in the wall, and he's like, hey, I wonder what it'd sound like to put a mic in there.
That's what you get.
Yeah.
So then after your time here in Austin, you went and played with the Go-Go's. You traveled the world. You guys broke up. You started the Delphines.
Yeah.
And then you started the Blue Bonnets.
God,
Right.
if you'd written my memoir, it'd be like that thin.
Well, I mean, I've only got 30 minutes with you. Did
I
I
know
miss
it's
a lot
funny
of
to see it.
stuff?
Well, no, it's just like it's.
It's an overview.
I'm just
It's a
thinking
quick-
maybe I should edit down to a page.
If you want someone to write your one sheet, you know where to go. So, what brought you back to Austin? You moved back here in 2006.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna
I mean, do
move
you
over
wanna-
all that.
No, we can talk about all of that stuff if you want.
We'll see. I came back here because I felt like well, I moved to LA after the Violators. Actually, the Violators moved to LA because we thought you couldn't make it out of Austin. We thought you got to go to the city, you know. So we piled all the stuff in my car and promptly broke up when we got there.
Okay.
So I started a band in LA and then got in the Go-Go's within 2 years. And I was 22 years old when that happened and when we broke and when we got big. And we broke up, got back together, this and that. And by the time I think I was 42, and I got married and I had a baby, and I just felt like, okay, I've been in LA 27 years, you know, I felt like I'd gone to Vegas and won, and it was time to cash in my chips and go back to Texas. So we moved back here and to raise my daughter Audrey, and for the schools and for I don't know, the idea of being in LA just seemed like not a good place to. It was fun for me because like I grew up here and I could take her on like the Zilker Park train, the same thing I was on when I was like a little kid, and Barton
Yeah.
Springs and all that. So it was kind of fun to raise her here.
Does she play any instruments?
She's interested. She's interested in singing now.
Okay.
And she's been. I think for a while she didn't want to do it because Mom did it, but now she's kind of interested.
No,
She's
it might
still-
be cool.
Yeah.
What are you doing now musically?
Well, I'm going to do a soundtrack to my memoir because I think, number one, I realized in my memoir that I've kind of always hidden in a band. Like, I've always been kind of afraid to just put I did do a solo record in 2005, and I'm proud of it. But for the most part, like in a band, I felt really safe. Like, if people didn't like the band, it was like they didn't like the band. It wasn't me they didn't like. And, you know, they were going to look at the band and go, oh, they're great, except for that Kathy Valentine chick. That wasn't going to happen. I was totally safe. So I realized in writing my memoir that I wanted to change that, and I wanted to, I'm not trying to compete with, be on the charts or anything like that. And now's a good time. And I also thought, as a writer, as a memoirist, that there's not very many people that can do that can write a soundtrack. Let's see you do that, Mary Carr.
No, it's hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like not everyone can do that. So it's not like, I just want to be inspired by some of the chapters and write music. So that's what I'm going to do. And I still play with the Bluebonnets, which is an all-female band that's kind of garagey blues rock. We did a record with Frenchie. It's a great record.
Great record.
We play occasionally. We're kind of on hiatus because this book was really eating up.
All consuming.
So much.
Yeah. And you've done some shows with the Go-Go's this year.
Yep.
Are you guys planning on doing anything in 2019? I know that there was a farewell tour, but sometimes people keep doing stuff.
Well, just between all of us, the Go-Go's kicked me out of the band.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Well, they did, and it was devastating and horrible, but whatever. Then they asked me back when they realized that they had made a big mistake. And so I said, sure, I'm not a grudge holder, and besides, who doesn't want to play the Hollywood Bowl 4 nights in a row, or 3 nights in a row? So, I went back, and we got the musical off the ground and played the Hollywood Bowl this year and a few other shows with the LA Philharmonic, which was just such a trip. I mean, to look back and see like an orchestra behind you with a conductor.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And then 17,000 people in front of you. And I'm not bragging. I don't mean this is just the way it was. But to take the brag down a little, like sometimes I'd look over and see like the violinist just like they'd be sitting there just like while you're playing, you're like, oh God, it's embarrassing. Like how much they don't like this.
So people can find all of your music, your solo music, your Bluebonnets music, all through KathyValentine.com and also the Bluebonnets.com?
I think so, yeah. I have a pretty cool website that I never update, but it's cool enough that I've gotten some mileage out of it, and it's got music links, and I have done some solo singles on there that mostly in 2017. And there's music and
there's one that we wrote together on there.
Yes, there is. Yeah. And I want to do more with you.
Yeah, we'll do more
music.
So right now, I'd like to open up the floor. If anyone has any questions for Kathy, go ahead and raise your hand. Sir in the red. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about the resistance that was encountered in an all-girl band. What was the discussion between the band members, not so much with the managers or the supporting group that got you, when you encountered that? What kind of conversations were you had? Like, was it like, well, let's not do this anymore, or was it let's just pump it up? Empowered you to
No, we didn't give a shit what they thought. We were having fun. We were just having a really good time, and we would have been happy if we sold 100,000 records. I mean, that was like the pinnacle, and that's what the label guy was a guy named Miles Copeland, and he managed the Police. Remember them? And I'm like the relic up here. So the Police had broken over several records. Like it took them like 3 or 4 records, and that was our plan. We did not expect the first record to sell millions of copies. But I wanted to add to that, the resistance was always, it was never from musicians. Like guy musicians were always so supportive, and I think that's a really interesting aspect of being a female musician, is that the men musicians are, in my experience, have been overwhelmingly supportive and kind of on your side and rooting for you. And the resistance has always been more from radio, who are they're just told what to do. I feel bad for those people. Like, what a crummy job to just do what you have to do all the time. But anyway, did that answer it?
Yeah, that answered it. I was just asking what was it.
Yeah, between us, we didn't care. We just as long as we could play and have fun and party and rock out together, you know, we didn't care what they, you know, whether they added us to that station or not, you know. But when they did, it would be like, woo! Not that we needed a reason to party, but just gave us another one.
Yes, you in the black.
I don't mean to bring a negative aspect to it, but why do you think there's such a shortage of female headliners in major music festivals?
I don't think that's a negative aspect. I think that's a fact. And I think, number one, you know, this is almost blasphemy, but I don't hear that many female bands that are that great. And I just think there needs to be more of them, because I think for every good male band, there's probably 5,000 bad ones. But if you just reduce all that down and you only have a couple of hundred female bands, just the proportions of good to bad, I mean, it's just, there's not that many great ones. I love, my favorite all-female band now is called The Beaches, and they're from Toronto, and I think they could go all the way. They're so good and so much fun, and they really remind me of when I started out, and they could be right up there, you know. I think, I don't know, this is not my world, so I don't know what the reasoning is, but, you know, it seems like, you know, it seems like the artists are doing better than, there's just not that many female bands. But you mean female-led bands? Like what, like St. Vincent? Or, I mean, I think they're doing, I mean, she's doing great. I don't know. I wish I had a better answer, but I don't really pay attention to that stuff. I think we have a long way to go, you know, and I think that I just wish more women would start bands. You know, I don't know what happens there.
They started a band.
Who?
The Tiara Girls.
Yes, of course. Yeah. And they are awesome.
Do we have any other questions for Kathy?
Tiara Girl.
What's your process of songwriting?
Well, it's like antenna, like they're always out, like looking for inspiration, and it could be something someone says or something I read or a billboard or just something. A lot of times, I don't hear lyrics very well when I'm listening to music, so a lot of times I'll hear music and think they're saying something, but it's not what they're saying, but it's good, so it's like it's mine now. I mean, the iPhone, to me, that's been the best tool for songwriting ever invented, because just having that voice memo there all the time that you can just, you know, I never listen to music in the car because I'm always getting ideas, and I can just kind of, you know, press record and put little melody. My voice memo thing is like jammed, like with hundreds of ideas. That I've just kind of recorded. So it's just kind of being, you know, I've been doing it a really long time, and sometimes I'm always looking for new ways to start. My favorite song I wrote recently, I just started with putting drum tracks together, and I hadn't really done it like that, and just kind of cutting things up, you know, and I'm really inspired by a lot of new music from like the hip hop world, and not that I want to be a hip hop artist, but I'm interested in the way they use sound and beats and just I'm kind of bored with just you know. So melodies, I think melodies and lyrics are to me what make a song, and that's what I'm always trying to be inspired by. I would love to work with you guys, by the way. Little
Quick plug. Yes, sir.
When the Go-Go's made the decision to start plugging in to push that record as far as it could go, how important was it to y'all to maintain a home balance, knowing that you were about to go travel around the world and like, keep your family connections going strong? Like, how sane did that keep you going out? Or did you just fully submerge?
Yeah, well, when you're 22 and you went there to make it, it's like there's no. I got rid of my apartment Like, I didn't want to be paying rent because I knew I was going to be on the road all the time. So I would crash at a friend's house if we had some time off, or in New York, or with my mom here in Austin. So I didn't have an apartment for like a year. And I had no pets, and I had no grounding at all. In fact, having a family has really, or having a child, it's really cramped my style as a musician. My band would always say, "Can't we go? We got offered this tour." And I'm like, I'm not leaving my kid. So it's just, I feel so fortunate to have gotten to do that when I was young and had nothing to hold me back. And I feel really fortunate that in my later years, I got to experience being a mom and all that too. So, and I feel really so blessed that I got to play big places with the Go-Go's to big audiences that really want to be there and know all your songs. I'm sorry, I keep looking at them.
That's okay.
Okay, I can't help it. When there's an audience, there's you. It's like,
I know.
so I got to do that, and then the tour would end, and I get to come back to Austin and throw my amp in the back of the car and go play the club. So, and I loved all of it. It's been really good.
There's something about the magic of all of it, you know. Do you feel like now? Do you feel like you're still plugged into the community and into the scene, like you're part of this living, breathing thing that is this music community?
No.
You probably are a lot more than you think you are.
I would
mean,
like
you-
to be. I
well,
would like to be, but I don't feel like you include me.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
include me.
Yeah.
You had it. You had that event though with all the different women songwriters at the
That was
Townsend last year. It was so
yeah,
great.
that was so awesome. I did a thing called She Factory that was all female artists and their song process and their writing and what inspired them. And I would love to do it again, but scheduling, like getting people's, I mean, you know
That's
how
hard.
hard it is to get
Sure.
get a rehearsal together,
Yeah.
much less get a bunch of working musicians
Yeah.
to like do something. So I would love to keep doing that. And I would love to be more involved in mentoring and promoting women, because I think, you know, no offense, but I think guys get a lot of cultural and sociological, and I think they get a lot of support that women don't always get. So in terms of music,
Yeah,
so I'd like to do more of that.
great. And are the Go-Go's? Oh, did the?
Oh, you wanted to know if we were doing more?
Yeah.
It's the damn singer, you know? It's like anybody in a band that has a singer, it's like, oh, it sucks. That's another reason I want to like start
Have
doing
your own
my
band, yeah.
Yeah, where I sing. That
Yeah.
way I don't have to depend on them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not going to do hardly anything. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which we should be nominated for,
Yeah.
and we shouldn't care that we're not, but we do care and we're not, and this and that. But eventually it'll happen, and we'll probably play for that.
Okay.
And also, if an offer came that was like piles of money, then we'd probably do it. I would do it for free. I mean, it's fun. Isn't that the idea? It's fun, right? You're supposed to do it,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's free. It's fun.
Any Bluebonnets plans?
We're going to play in March.
Okay.
And starting in the springtime and be playing. And I play guitar in that band along with Yves Moncey and Dominique Davalos. And it's a fun band. And we
Yeah.
played with the Tiara Girls. And I don't know. Any other questions? You had a question. Yeah, didn't you?
Yeah.
What? How do you get past the hurdles to what?
How do you?
And
Yeah.
not give up?
That's inside you.
Well, yeah, I always think of that quote by I think it's Rilke, the German poet, where he just says, art is something you just have to do. You
Yeah.
know, you just have to. And it's like, I mean, I haven't written much music. I wrote one song this year because I've been focused on my book, and my heart is starting to really yearn for it. You know, I just moved and I'm getting my studio set up, and I can't wait to start doing music again. And for me, there's been times where like I'm going through something devastating, you know, whether it's a divorce or a betrayal or some kind of, and I'm just like, and I like work my way to the spiral notebook. That's how I still write a lot. And I pick up the guitar, and it's like I just get out of myself. And so I think that's how I do it. It's like if you do music and time kind of stops you, it kind of stops, and your mind stops thinking a little bit, you know, you're not just thinking about all the bullshit of life, then that's why you keep doing it. Because how many things in this world do you get to do where you're just in the moment and you're really present with what you're doing and you're not thinking about how we're going to all be destroyed. And, you know, it's like when you can just stop the thoughts and be in the moment, I think that's the best reason to do any art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Kathy, thank you so much for doing this. It's been fantastic. People can find her at kathyvalentine.com. She's also very active on Twitter.
What?
You're on Twitter still? You're still active on there?
Yeah, I'm a big Twitter fan. I don't like Facebook. Facebook, boo. But I like Twitter, yeah.
All right.
And Instagram is okay, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like Twitter. I've made a lot of friends on Twitter. It's
Well,
good.
good.
All right, thank you
Thank
all.
you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
doing
much.
this. Kathy Valentine, everyone.